Internet! Hello and welcome to Koicast, where I, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and most people, dive into all the news and the stuff and hang out with producer Jake, who is a lesser Bostonian and more curmudgeonly New Yorkian that I am becoming more like every day. How you doing today, man?
Elaborate on why you say you're becoming more and more like me. What did you tell me right before we started recording?
As I sat down, I saw Jake in his traditional cardigan, and I had just taken off my first ever cardigan yesterday. I literally put on a cardigan and looked at myself and went, so this is how it begins. And I thought of Jake, and then the moment we sat down, and not only is it like a similar cut cardigan, but it's also mine's like a taupe gray, and his is like a gray brown. So similar
it's
hues.
Green. It's just I'm under crappy lighting. You can't tell, but it's
I see. Okay,
it's actually
I like
green,
that.
which is kind of nice. But I find it surprising because it's a very Irish. People always tell me I look like an old Irish man.
Quite.
Yeah.
I think I'm so like wide. I was just afraid of looking like chubby.
No,
because it makes me. I look like Tom Hardy in that Prohibition movie. I just look scary.
You mean Venom? Venom 2.
No.
Venom 2.
No, that's Prohibited movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, right. I abstained.
You prohibit.
I abstained from those movies, and so therefore I assumed I confused.
Abstinence movies versus Prohibition movies are different movies,
right?
But yeah, I thought it was really funny, and then I realized while we were talking that I met Jake about my age now, and the Jakeification has begun.
Yeah, meaning I was Coy's age when we met, and now we're slow. Now he's catching up.
I'm entering this phase.
Yeah,
and like I'm watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm wearing cardigans. Like it's happening. It's and they're all like the most like when I think of Jake, those are big things. Like those are major tentpole moments.
Listen,
so it's funny.
Not everybody understands style. Okay, and if
you
I have
gotta
to
be comfy and stylish.
If I have to explain it one by one. Listen, I will say
mine was also a gift, by the way. My first cardigan was a gift because I've always been afraid to wear them, but it's cashmere, and man, oh man, is cashmere nice.
Cashmere cardigan, wow, you live in the high
real
life.
Dad fancy.
I'm not gonna lie, you sort of skipped the novice and went right till advanced. I don't know if you're ready for that kind of cardigan. That's a lot of cardigans for a beginner.
Almost too comfortable. Like I definitely did that thing where I kept rubbing my own arms, and I probably looked absolutely insane. Like I was walking down Abbot Kinney, which to non-LA folk is a very like, oh, fancy. I was walking down like Abbot Kinney Street, rubbing my arms, wearing I definitely looked like an imposter. Like I looked like, oh, this guy's trying to walk down Abbot Kinney.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something though. See, the problem is that you live in LA there, and it's cold. I mean, it's not very cold, but still,
we got like a
next
month.
Next time you gotta look fancy, right? You wear a nice tee that doesn't have like the tee I'm wearing now kind of has like a loose. It's old.
A little pull.
Well, yeah, so the collar's not really taut anymore. Wear a nice, clean-looking tee, right?
Yep.
If you want to be a little bit more fancy, button up, okay, with the top button undone. But a tee is fine, because if you dress up the look, wear your cardigan, button it. Don't leave it unbuttoned. Pop the collar.
Whoa.
Throw a blazer on over it. And you will be the epitome of style, let me tell you.
Well, here
I'm telling you, it's a look.
Talk.
It is a fucking look, and every time I wear something like that, people go like, "Oh, I would have never thought to wear a blazer over that, and you look really fancy." And I'm like, "Yeah,
I'm gonna try
layers.
it, especially the cashmere. Like
Layers.
this is gonna be layers."
Well, that's the only reason I said it. Really, is because you told me about the cashmere.
I might get like a nice linen, blazer for that. Like I feel like a nice like off-white linen with the cashmere. Yeah, because LA, I gotta accept that layers in LA is a bold swing, so I gotta dress accordingly.
Yeah. I will say that I'm a layers guy. You could probably count on one hand how many times you've seen me in shorts.
Yeah, maybe two. Maybe I think maybe.
Listen, I'm all about layers, and that's why as much as I do miss LA right now too, and I love my home of LA. I need some cold weather just so that I can dress the way I want to dress, which is lots of layers.
I had a really weird moment at Abbot Kinney where I miss the East Coast so much because it's always like grass is greener, like obviously. But I literally sat down under a tree that had foliage, and I just like I kind of lightly angeled, like foliage angeled, and like looked up, and it was like a singular tree, and I was so aware of how sad that was. I was just like singularly aware that this one tree was giving me fall in November.
Can I tell you, I literally wept the other day because the it's ending and winter is now upon us, and they're like the trees are empty. And I literally was like, God, it was such a beautiful couple months, but it's so fleeting. Fall goes by too fast. But it was, listen, considering it's been, 15 years since I've even had a real fall, it was lovely. I can't complain.
I'm going to Tennessee for one day tomorrow. I'm like flying in and out of Tennessee, and I'm very curious what like a dash of southern fall winter is going to do to me.
It's literally, you might be finding snow there because it's snowing in Tennessee and Kentucky already.
I'm terrified. I don't even have those clothes. I don't even know. No cardigan will prevent me from freezing.
No, you're going to need something heavier than that cashmere cardigan.
Well, speaking of the insanity of flying, one thing we haven't discussed this week is the potentiality of maybe, I think, the best ever Superman cast assembled. And in the week since we recorded, we got some mostly confirmed news. They haven't confirmed Lex Luthor, but they have confirmed a number of other cast members. We had known for a few months now that David Cornsweet, announced before the strike, was going to be our Superman. We knew for sure Rachel Brosnahan of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was in fact our Lex Luthor. But this week we have confirmed that perhaps the best casting in, I don't know, 10 years? Like, this is up there for me with Downey Jr., and this is like Reynolds as Deadpool. This is, okay, tying with Amon Villani.
Where are you going? Are you going to Olsen?
Oh, it's about to land. Skylar Gisoldo is Jimmy Olsen. He's not cast as Jimmy Olsen. He's not playing Jimmy Olsen. They are doing what they did with Ryan Reynolds, where 30 years into that man's life, they just let him put on the suit he was born to wear. Jimmy Olsen has walked amongst us, and they have finally started to pay him to be Jimmy Olsen. I haven't been this excited about casting in a long time.
I will say he looks like a drawing from the 40s.
He looks more like Jimmy Olsen than most comics have drawn Jimmy Olsen.
I actually just watched him. And I didn't log it, and people aren't going to hear me talk about it because I didn't finish the movie because of family, which is the worst, by the way. God, being around a family is the worst if you enjoy movies. Just nothing will ruin the movie watching experience like other people. And by the way, we'll get to that when we talk about the fact that I went and saw Napoleon in a theater, but I digress.
No.
It's called it's the same tradition from that episode of The Bear about 7 fishes. I think it's called The Dinner of 7 Fishes, the name of the movie, and it's this little indie movie that he's in. And it's not a great movie from what I saw, but he is just you're not wrong. He's just whatever that like, and he's not the only one. There's definitely other people out there who fit this mold. But it's that like,
I thought Will Poulter would have also been a great Jimmy, because James Gunn likes to work with people.
Yeah.
But it would have been Will Poulter who's in the archetype playing Jimmy. But I would have been like, that guy's a little jacked.
Right.
Whereas this guy is like, that's his. And this is a guy that wouldn't say friend. This is a guy who wouldn't say buddy. This is Superman's pal.
Yeah.
Jimmy fucking Olsen.
Yeah. He's let's just stop beating around the bush. He's a super fucking nerd. And,
it's the best. Like an authentic one.
It's real good. It's really good.
Booksmart is like an audition for Jimmy Olsen. Like he is
true.
He's playing.
That's really good.
Because I didn't know Amon Villani beforehand because it's her first role. But as soon as you meet Amon Villani, whether you like the show or not, you go, wow, that's charming Miss Marvel, like she is Miss Marvel. Right. Whereas I've seen other movies of this guy and I go like, oh, no, we've just been waiting for Jimmy Olsen to get a movie.
Right. Did you see that movie? I didn't see it. I want to say it's The Binge with him and the long-haired guy.
Yes, it's surprisingly funny.
Yeah, I love that guy. I love the other character actor whose name I forget. He's been in a bunch of things, but I think he was in Stranger Things.
He was in Stranger Things recently, yeah.
But he's been in a lot of other little comedies where he's got. But when I saw the 3 of them on the poster, I was like, I love this because it's like 3 young actors who I feel like are all big names of tomorrow. And it like, I don't know, it made me feel like, oh, like if I was a teenager, these would be my favorite people.
It's definitely like when I watched like Bottoms, there's certain casts where you're like, the next wave. Like you can tell at least 70% of this cast, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to have to watch that on IMDb. Like it's those movies where you watch something in the 90s and you wonder what they did in the 80s, and like the 2020s, you check their 2010s.
It's like, it's the people now when it's like the Michael B. Jordans, for us, where it was like when I was younger, or like people like that, or, people where I just go like, oh, I remember the small side role that this person played, and now they're, the biggest star.
Or watching something like 10 Things I Hate About You and being like, I wonder where blah, blah, blah is. And you're like, oh, they're crushing it on 7 seasons of a show I haven't caught up on.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm super excited for him. I think James Gunn's casting is consistently immaculate, but this cast if the rumors are true, we also got rumors that Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor.
So that I don't like.
Oh, and okay, let's discuss. I love
and there's some other casting rumors as well. And you already know the reason why, because I'm a broken fucking record. And if people want to complain about me being too curmudgeon about certain elements, you can never say that I'm inconsistent. Let me tell you.
That's true. He does stand on his ground of curmudgeonliness.
He's great. He's an incredible actor, and he'd be great for the role. How many fucking actors are there working right now? How many actors would also be great for the role who already weren't a fucking superhero in a goddamn Marvel or DC superhero project? Like, I'm so sick of the talent pool seeming so small for a role that could go to somebody who we've never met before, who will encompass it in a way that will launch a career.
I'm team. I don't see movies without at least someone I know in them. I just don't.
But
so like, I think you need a name.
But that's not the name anyway in this movie.
Who's the name?
It's not going to be that
That's
guy.
what I'm saying. He's the biggest star.
So
I think you need a star.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you need Brainiac to be a star, and I think you need Lex to be a star because you got to anchor the movie with some star power. Like, if you're going to cast unknowns for Jimmy, who's an unknown, Lois Lane, who is from TV, and David Cornsweet, who I've never seen the work of, I think you need some IMDb star meter.
I'm going to argue this in that you don't when it's a fucking giant IP already. I mean,
look at the casting of other Supermans. You'd had Kevin Spacey play him. You needed some star power for Brandon Routh, who wasn't unknown then. Gene Hackman played him back in the day when Christopher Reeve wasn't unknown. I think you need a big Lex.
While I don't disagree that has occurred and that is helpful, we're not talking about like some indie movie that someone's desperate to sell and get on their feet and they need, this isn't fucking Good Will Hunting and Robin Williams signing on. Like,
no, that's even more so. I totally agree with that.
This movie's going to get made with a ton of money as a budget anyway, because it's part of the machine. And again, while I understand your point, I also don't think Nicholas Hoult is enough of a name anyway. So that's also like,
I see that. Like, I don't know. For my argument, you need a little bit bigger. But I would also say, if you're like, oh, the new Superman's out, who's in it? And you might know Nick Hoult. Whereas, like, if you're like, who's in it? The girl from Mrs. Maisel.
Superman. That's the
fucking
answer. Yeah,
but that doesn't do it anymore.
It's the answer.
That's not enough.
I don't know. I think it is enough for
I see movies
movies
because the actor's in them. Like, I wouldn't have seen Bottoms if not for having just watched The Bear. Like, I would never have seen that movie. Like, I watch movies because of who's billed.
No, I disagree. You watch movies because people invite you to them. If there was a movie,
I paid for Bottoms.
If there was a movie that had nobody in it, and they were like, "Hey, you want to watch this movie?" and come to this movie and come to this movie.
Oh no, because it's 5 hours of my day. I don't have time. I only go to premieres of like things I actually like. I need to be invested. Like, I don't see things without at least 3 people I kind of know. So Bottoms I didn't see for weeks because I was like, oh, I only know the girl from The Bear, and then I was like, oh, that girl from that theater camp movie's in it. Okay, I'll see it now. Like, listen, I need a cumulative talent.
You heard it out there, folks. If you're a young aspiring filmmaker, don't fucking bother, because Koi's not interested. Because
I'm not going to see it unless you invite me to the premiere, and there's free drinks. And then it better not be a 5-hour premiere. I'm limited to 4 if I don't know you. But then again, like one of the movies we're going to talk about on this week's Patron Pod, I saw Saltburn the day it came out because of Barry Keoghan. But like, that was my name to go see. So I think it's a balance. Like, if there's someone that's like, I honestly think Barry's the best actor of our generation, like this generation, like this next wave. And that would be enough. And Nick Hoult might be that for some people.
I mean, he's charming.
He's the great.
He's not bad at anything. It's just,
like, the menu is like largely weighted on him.
He's just in bad movies. Yeah. Oh, that he was fantastic in that movie for sure. Listen, you know my love for Warm Bodies. That's one of my absolute.
That's true.
That's
you
one
do.
Of my
and
absolute favorites.
For me, he'll always be Nux. So I've already got a little sneak preview. A bald boy.
Again, I don't know. It's I back to my original point though. While I understand it feels like nowadays there are only superhero movies, the reality is the percentage of all movies and all movie roles, there's still a limited amount of characters, right? And like the fucking odds, like there's so many people who've played more than 1 or even 2 fucking Ryan Reynolds. Goddamn, like superheroes. Chris, wait, no, he's only played 2.
No, Human Torch, Captain America. He was the first lead in the Losers, and he was Scott Pilgrim.
You're right. I forgot about Losers. Also, Scott Pilgrim. That is correct. I forgot about.
Yeah, like 4. He's like he.
I guess I
didn't
count.
rounds.
I didn't count Scott Pilgrim as more of the mainstream. But yes, I understand the point. But like, you get what I'm saying though. Like, just fucking find new people. Find new fucking people. At the end of the day, all I'm saying is I'd make a great Lex Luthor. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's what he's saying. That's all the pitch is here. Long game, and you know what? That man would wear a lot of cardigans. To tie it back to our prolonged intro about cardigans, it was all for Lex Luthor. But that said, I also think that this feels like he was second to Prince Caspian. He was second to Superman. He was second to play the Batman. I feel like I'm happy for Nick Holt to finally get the star making, because like Beast was never a star making performance. They wrote in. They basically, because Nick Holt is great, added more hairless Beast, and I would rather him play something where it's like Nicholas Holt getting to play it, not, okay, we've got Jennifer Lawrence and Nick Holt who are dating.
Sure.
But like at the end of the day, I'm not worried about Nick Holt's bank account or career. I just think it's nice that someone who's been, it's kind of like Henry Cavill, where he was almost Superman and then finally got Superman. I'm glad he's finally getting to be Lex, if it's true. Because I had heard it was true from a number of sources I trust.
Speculative. But I mean, at the end of the day, doesn't James Gunn pretty bold about just saying like, if it's real, I'll tell you?
Yeah, but he hasn't said it's not, which is why I'm like, maybe it's paperwork. Because usually it's well, that's, because it was like 2 days later.
The ink's not dry yet.
Yeah, it's what I honestly think it's like the agent that reps Nick Holt was like, it's confirmed, to like up his price a little bit, because he saw the reaction that most people were excited. He's like, this is actually going to be a little bit more. We're going to move that comma.
Right. Hey, there's a good possibility that it is all for naught, and it's actually not him.
Yeah, then and it's some unknown they haven't wanted to announce yet. You're going to be like, yay!
Like somebody who needs, exactly. Somebody to surprise
the ink on Jake's contract is drying, folks. But yeah, so that's a lot of Superman casting been moving and grooving. We also got the casting for Tesh Masher, which is basically Taskmaster, but written with little French. And she's the right-hand man of Lex Luthor. We've got like a decent cast shaping up. Long ago, we cast Guy Gardner, which I don't necessarily love, but I believe in Nathan Fillion. I pictured Guy Gardner as a bit more of a major player I think the one moment
it's gonna just be a little side
thing. Funny beat.
Yeah.
And I think he'll pop up again in Green Lantern, and they'll establish him so we can pop back up again. I would have liked a bit more Guy Gardner than what it's going to inevitably be by having it be Nathan Fillion. But that's
agreed.
As far as complaints go. But on the world of Marvel, we have also had a ton of casting rumors, none of which have been confirmed, but they have been pretty staggeringly announced. A number of sites that I also trust had reported official and then backed up on the official Reed Richards.
So Pedro is not necessarily, we don't know that that's real or not.
Basically, that was confirmed by /Film and Deadline. Deadline actually changed their language between the time I put a video out from playing to eyes on. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, so I think someone probably reached out and they were like, change the article. No one will notice. So it's strongly worded still, but it's not as like inked. I think it's a similar thing where they've had like 5 actors attached to Reed. I think the timing is rough because one, I think they had cast them long ago, and then the pandemic threw off scheduling, and then I think they'd cast them right before the strike, and then I think the optics on Marvel have changed enough that it's not worth some people doing for how little Marvel is known to pay. Right. So I think that there's certain rates versus like prestige issues.
Also, it's like, are you signing a fucking 10-year deal?
And that I think would have been worth it in Marvel's like glory days.
Right.
Marvel can regain those glory days. I just think right now the announcement that you're in a Marvel movie does not have the same laurels that it did 5 years ago.
Right. I apologize for interrupting this train of thought, but is Homelander on the beverage you're drinking for some reason?
Yes, he is. This is a G Fuel, and this G Fuel has.
Oh, corporate. Okay, so it's not just. All right. I was thinking to myself like.
I'm just drinking Homelander beverage.
I'm just like, that seems like not, I don't want to, that's not the spokesperson for the company.
Yeah, that's a weird, I mean? Yeah, no, it's called Compound V, this sports drink. It's got both.
Got it. G
also,
Fuel.
Let the record show, it's Amazon, come on. This beverage is simultaneously 0 calories, which means it's pure chemicals, but it's also 300 milligrams of caffeine, because I haven't been sleeping very well, and I'm a little worried my heart may explode.
Well, I'm sure that drinking something like that will definitely help your heart.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I got this and 2 other shows today, and I've slept very little, and I'm just gonna, but right before the holidays. If I make it through the holidays, guys, I just want to get to Jake's age.
Cool. I like that your bar is that low. I respect that. I have a lot of respect for that.
Hey, I'm just shooting for the next 5 years. I'm looking ahead.
That's what I always say. People say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I say, hopefully alive.
Vertical?
And of hypothesis.
But yeah, I'm curious about this cast. It seems like Vanessa Kirby is all but locked.
I mean, I like him, but my problems previously are all still the same.
Oh, that's where I agree with your problems, because I don't see Nicholas Hoult as synonymous with Beast as much as I see Kelsey Grammer, but I do see Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, as the guy from The Last of Us, as Game of Thrones, which I didn't even watch.
I mean, again,
whereas
another in fucking Wonder Woman, like another comic book character, another, you know what I mean? Like for me, it's mostly that. It's like, I get it. I understand how the fucking industry works. Okay. I'm a part of it, and attempting to be as much on the outside of it as possible. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I still don't think that we would all be better off if that industry wasn't the way that it is.
I understand. And I don't disagree with Reed. I definitely would have preferred someone that is a known name that hasn't done comic stuff.
Exactly. Somebody, it's like I said, I know that it's a stretch, but I really think that somebody like God, I'm forgetting his
Joseph
name.
Gordon-Levitt.
Or I wasn't thinking of him. I was thinking of Barry and SNL, Skeleton Jones.
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader. I keep wanting to go Will. I was like, one of the Wills. It's not Forte. It's not right. Bill Hader.
Technically,
somebody like a Bill Hader, right? Who's a big name, but not in. But
not
space.
A genre. He's not in.
Yes, not.
And like that's
space.
why Joe has been mine forever, because he played Robin-ish, but that was a while ago, and that wasn't Robin. That was a one line. Whereas like he has that pretentiousness. I also have a problem with. I understand that he was like arrogant in Game of Thrones, but the modern Pedro Pascal is so damn likable that I don't see how. You cast the guy who's outthinking you to the point where he's bored in your presence that you don't want to talk to as a guy that I'd love to have a beer with. Yeah. Whereas like Joe can play that pompous guy. Like we've seen it.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's not like limited as an actor. I'm just saying the energy some roles exude, I don't see Pedro for. But I'm excited to be proven wrong. I trust so much in Sarah Haley Finn, who's such like, she sees 10 years ahead with these castings. She has to. Like, she's got this eye. So if she has cast him and that is real, I'm in. But Vanessa Kirby, I think, is the perfect thing you're describing, where she's been in stuff, but she's not.
Yes, that's a great.
Too much a household name.
Yep, that's the right space. That is the right space, and it also is the next step for her. It's the next.
Her career is about to. It's worth her getting whatever amount of money, but doing the 10 years to then be a household name. That's then she can make the 10 indies. Because like Chris Evans is doing press right now. He was saying like, I don't really, discuss the Captain America films because I've covered them, but like we can answer a question or two. I'm here to discuss this film, but I wouldn't be here without the Cap films. I want to be doing this, but I acknowledge that.
The equivalent of him, the equivalent of Hemsworth, all the Chris's. Mm-hmm. Same thing with, literally all the Chris's. Pratt is another great example. A guy who was up and coming, who people really enjoyed, who fit it, but wasn't known for this. Like him as Star-Lord was...
inspired.
It was really inspired, and it was also like there was a familiarity with us because he was such a long beloved television character, but not so familiar and so driven in that we couldn't see beyond it. It's not. My
number one casting pick is still the number 2 for Star-Lord for Reed. I want Glenn Howerton.
Glenn Howerton as Reed would be so goddamn good.
And
so
like
good.
He's literally stayed, and she said on the record he has stayed in shape since Star-Lord because he was number 2, and he's like, I want to be ready for Marvel. And I'm like, it is right there. Like, also, I want to acknowledge 5 minutes ago, that's a stretch pun you didn't intend, but that is the stretch I want. Is Glenn Howerton.
Oh, good job.
So Glenn Howerton's my guy. Paul Mescal is rumored for Human Torch. Paul Mescal is like one of those big Oscar up and comers that is in a lot of shortlists, but also the guy that plays. What's it called? On Stranger Things. Brett
Gelman.
No, the Breakout. That's a name.
Yes.
The Breakout guy from season 4.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. The guy with the long hair. The metal kid.
Yeah, the metal kid. He and Paul Mescal are the 2 names I've heard most for Human Torch. And then I keep hearing, and this makes me really happy, I keep hearing the dude from The Bear as Thing.
The main dude from the
no, like cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
With those Pearson baby blues, and he's got that aggression. He feels like New Yorkie. I could hear him say it's clobber in time.
I still am also just sort of like, yeah, a lot of fucking white people.
I mean, he's a Jewish guy from New York.
All right. No, all right. I'll take it.
And like, he's also one of the few Jewish characters that has that as part of his identity, that I think that it'd be a little like short-sighted of Marvel to cast him differently of all people.
I will say, I don't know. I do like at the end of the day, it's who's going to have a good voice, because it's going to be a fucking CG fucking rock monster.
Yeah, I also don't love that like half the time they cast people of color, they make them the rock monster or the equivalent of.
Sure.
Like, that's to me just like, hey, look what we did for tokenism. And then I'm like, well, that's uncomfortable.
I get it. With that said, though, I still think John Leguizamo should play the Thing, and I've thought that for
I'm not mad at that at all.
Years.
Like, I'm still, no.
But that doesn't
I'm also not saying there's not white Jewish people. I'm just acknowledging that of the choices, that'd be ooh.
Yeah.
I also find that, like, you know, they often write like redhead roles as you know, minority adjacent in the dialogue. So I thought it was really weird, that span of 10 years where it was like, okay, we're gonna make sure we have one person of color. Make sure it's the redhead. I'm like, this is the worst, like, of the casting slides. Like,
right.
But that's also hard to get into the conversation of without being like,
how to be a studio executive. Step 1, turn redheads black. Step 2,
like, let's be woke by proxy.
Step 2, don't want a black person in the role, turn redheads another minority.
And then it's like everyone loses because it looks real bad, and it's also the way that a lot of redhead characters were written.
It doesn't look entirely bad, Coy, because the rest of us don't have to look at redheads.
That's true. As 0.5% of the population, frankly, it's for the best.
I kid. You know I love a redhead.
But Jimmy Olsen, getting to be Jimmy Olsen to the level that he is the like, well, that's Jimmy Olsen.
It's good. It's good stuff.
But it's also tricky to talk about, because like, as soon as you say that, you're immediately on like a ton of like alt-right lists of like, yeah, I totally agree. Like, as a redhead guy that's like wanted to see like Irish characters and to see like, it's always so hard because the wrong people start thinking that's what I'm about. And whenever I tweet anything, I'm like, no, I don't want this blue flag stripe in my shit. Like, do not follow me.
You're not allowed to have nuance. What's wrong with you?
You will not enjoy my page, person that has a fucking frog on a tricycle on your fucking emoji. You will not enjoy what I have to say.
You are a white guy on the internet. You are not allowed to have shades of gray, my friend.
No. My skin is way too apparent on my head. I'm too short-haired to have these thoughts. But yeah, I'm really excited about the potential casting of Fantastic Four. The most recent rumor, as we head into some hotline calls, is for the great Doctor Doom. And speaking of Irishmen in prominent roles, Cillian Murphy is the most common name I've heard bandied about for a couple years. But as of this week, a lot of insiders that actually have some decent track records have said that he is being eyed directly by Marvel. I love this, except for the stature. But Tom Hardy has been able to play 6'3" people for the last few years. So I think if any costume is going to allow a 5'4" guy to look large, it is Doctor Doom.
Again, great casting idea. Same problem. Another dude is already in another fucking goddamn superhero thing. It's just I don't know. There's so many
15 years ago, Jake. It's been 15 years.
I don't give a fuck how long it's been. Okay. Time is a flat circle. It was yesterday, as far as I don't know. There's so many
20.
goddamn people out there.
I don't trust most actors. I trust Cillian Murphy.
I mean, I understand that point.
I want someone with Doom's like power to be powerful. That's what I mean. Like, I just want I think that role also requires a certain amount of built-in gravitas.
Yeah,
especially after Oppenheimer.
You have to be a little dramatic for that.
It's got to be like
yeah.
And Cillian Murphy's like recent press tours have shown me like how ready he is. I don't know if you follow press stuff, but like people have been asking him what he did during the strike, and he was like, "I was home eating cheese."
Right,
and I was like, "What is that answer?"
I only watch them if someone sends them to me, or I come across something that says like, this person clearly is miserable at this press junket, and I go, yes, I will be watching that. Thank you very
often
much.
That's Cillian Murphy. Like, that's the beauty of, and I think that's why I'm excited, is he doesn't care, just like Doom doesn't care. Because as soon as that cheese answer came out, someone unearthed one from like 10 years ago, and they asked like, if there were 10 minutes left on Earth, what would you do? And he was like, ooh, 10 minutes. That's not a lot of time. I don't know. Bake a loaf of bread. And I was like, what is Cillian Murphy doing at home? So I enjoy his apathy for mankind, and I think that's very Doom.
Yeah, it's a good casting for sure. It's just there's a lot.
It's just that he's been Scarecrow, so it's like, I hear you.
Yeah, there's an actor who I feel like He's in a bunch of comedy stuff. He's in that show that I've told you about that it's one of my favorites, and I feel like I told you all the time, if you like Dave, you should really watch You're the Worst, because it's one of my favorites. The lead in that, he's not the archetype. He's like a tall, lanky, blonde British man. But I always thought he could play either of the two as well. I thought he could go Reed, because he has smartest guy in the room syndrome. He has a little bit of that Glenn Howerton thing, right? Where he's sort of the lovable dick.
Yeah, I know who he is.
But I feel like I've seen him get angry in shows and things, but I can feel like there's another gear that he's got.
Sure.
And I always feel like, God, I could see it. Like, I don't know. I like the idea of him behind the. I don't know if he can do an American accent.
I've wanted Rufus Sewell forever.
That's good too. I like,
because he's right. Yeah. He's on that edge of like, people know his face, but they don't know why they know him.
Yeah, and there's like something in the eyes, man.
Dude, his eyes behind that big metal cage would be so scary. He's also got one eye bigger than the other one, which would be scary behind the mask. But yeah, so that is the rumored casting. We'll see how that all shakes out. I'm very curious about what this next World of Marvel looks like. Next year, we're only getting Deadpool, which I think is a lot of time to retool.
It's so good. I'm so relieved.
Yeah, same. To be honest, it's gonna be a very not profitable year for me, because my bread and butter is in Marvel content, and DC content, which is also, they only have Joker next year. But I do think it is for the better longevity of both franchises that we take some time.
There will be plenty of franchises for you, I'm sure.
We'll see. I don't know. I think this whole like genre content needs to take a breather to come back.
You know, I had a moment the other day as I was scrolling through some fucking social media, and I've completely turned on Deadpool 3 as far as I'm so mad that we have photos of the set.
Oh, same. Like literally they had to release those because paparazzi showed up. They weren't going to.
I'm like seeing the Wolverine suit for the first time in the theater would have been the best case. That would have been one of those very memorable moments that we all carry with us forever of like, oh my God, do you remember when you finally saw it? You remember when the case was opened, or when the fucking shot was revealed, or whatever it was, however they're going to do it. Yeah. And now it's just, the movie's still so far away, and we've been seeing them now for what, a fucking year?
And I've seen that image 100 times a day.
And it's now, it doesn't even mean anything. It doesn't even register what I'm looking at anymore. Yeah. I scrolled past it, not giving two fucks to even see or read what it's about. And that is so unfortunate. And that is like such a problem. And I think it's another problem with just like you said, the internet culture of like having to release shit because you don't want paparazzi to leak stuff. But also just like, the fact that we're looking at stuff so far in the future, that like,
and we can't put that genie back in the bottle, because now that's these news cycles.
Yeah, that's
like, I mean, I know you don't watch most of my stuff because it's not like your kind of content, but I won't do shows if it's about leaks that are literally ruining people's careers, or if it's about like basically paparazzi photos, unless they've already been reported by major sites, i.e. the studios have gone like, fine, I won't report on it. Like, that's like, I have to have a line in the sand somewhere. My thing used to be, even if it was an official image, if it was a set photo, I wouldn't report on it. And like, I had to move my line in the sand to, well, if they're reporting on it, and that sucks, because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Everything that we used to complain about trailers showing too much of the movie is now just the internet.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's like every day there's a new, like, well, that's half the movie.
I mean, all I can say is that like I still am very confident in that product, and I'm still very excited for it.
I think the 3 months they had to just like not write but brainstorm is only going to help, because like the frustration is going to make diamonds out of it. Because Hugh Jackman like had to have loved the script to come back, but then dude had to stay in shape throughout a fucking strike, and like I can't imagine, because him, Sean Levy, and Ryan were all hanging out. I can't imagine the stuff that got cooked up that has now gotten written. And that's so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be fun. And honestly, I do think it'll be I think it's going to make people more excited to go see something there. Like, you can blame the quote poor box office. You know what I mean? The literally most successful movie by a black woman director of all time.
Yeah. Quote, just not on the Marvel scale.
Poor box. Yeah. We can blame the poor box office on the films, on the draw, and all of this stuff. But I do truly believe that there is a fatigue that is happening beyond just, well, it doesn't have the people we know, right? Beyond that, I do think there is a fatigue, and
I think it spreads beyond superhero, though. I think it's a genre content fatigue because of Mission Impossible, because of Indiana Jones. Like, and people aren't talking about that, which I think is so weird. Yeah. Like, because of things like Barbie and Guardians, people are going like, oh, it's not so bad. But I'm like, yeah, but if you look at other things outside the superhero genre, big movies aren't doing as well. Like, Transformers has been, like, depreciating returns. Indiana Jones made nothing. Yeah. And, like, I think it's people aren't as thrilled to go to the movies, much less these big shiny ones.
And the reality is and I hate to be that guy, but the bar is dropping. I really strongly feel like the quality bar is dropping. Because
I did not like the Marvels, man. And that hurts me to say.
Because, and I think it's just because, like, everything that we've always talked about how, like, nothing ruins art like capitalism. Like, there's always been this really good battle between show and business. And it's been checks and balances for all
business
the time.
Business has fucking prevailed since the pandemic.
And I do feel like I would say even before then, I feel like really even like the 10 years prior, I feel like something really clicked in the 2000 teens where business really took over. And I think it might have just been the streamers, right? Where like something shifted and it seems like business is really taken over for show. Maybe it's just because we're getting older and we were easier to please when we were 20 and teens and kids. Yeah. And so we just go like, movies were great when they were all great. And now we're just a bit more discerning. We have less time. I think about how many movies I have time to fucking watch and how many more movies I'm going to have. How many more, like Christmas weekend movies do I have left in my life? 40 total? What am I going to choose out of those 40? You know what I mean? Like,
I've had that lately too, because there's always those like videos of like, you've only got 30 summers left if you're 40. And like I always, but like my brain does go movies sometimes where I'm like,
same.
This is 12th of my day. How many, like, it's just so hard. And if you go to the theater, that's like a 10th of your day. And that's why I'm more discerning about premieres. That's why I'm more discerning about what I'm promoting. Because like, if you're not just watching the movie, you're working on the movie, that affects your whole thing. It's been more exhausting to cover the Marvels than it is stuff I love by a lot, because I get lumped into these assholes. I also like don't love talking negativity. Like I don't like being like upset at art. It's more draining on me to not like something. So like I don't want to put myself in that position. I'm not going to like go see something I might not like and then have to be in this position of like, what'd you think? Like, fuck. Like, so yeah, it's really hard with so much coming out. That's why it's hard for me to like commit to a TV show, because
I'm the same way, especially
2 hours,
especially if it's like an hour-long drama that's been on for 4 years. And I'm
sorry.
Just like, I'm like,
I hear it's great.
But that's why I say on the show, and I keep telling you all the time, like, check this show out. It's 10 episodes. They're 20 minutes each. You could do the entire season in one night or two, and then you've experienced this story. I actually had this conversation with Alexandra the other day where she started talking about like, oh, well, like you're opposed to all these stories and blah, blah, blah. Because we were talking about going to see Napoleon, and she was like, oh, well, it's kind of a long movie. And I was like, when have I ever complained about a long movie? And she's like, you're always complaining about TV shows being long. And I'm like, oh, no. I was like, you're not going to lump that statement into this, because you're conflating two things. I don't care to watch an hour-long drama. That's fine if it's a 6-episode season.
Yeah.
I am not going to watch a 20-episode fucking hour-long drama that's been on for 4 years, because the reality is as incredible as I'm certain Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones are, I missed them, okay? And now to go back and catch up, that's one story. I'm going to experience one story in the same amount of time that I could probably experience 14 other stories of varying genres and of varying mediums. I can watch an animated show that's 10 episodes of 20 minutes. I could watch comedy. I could watch a drama. I could watch something that's a little bit more indie. I could watch a streamer-style show like The Bear. I can watch a big ABC sitcom, you know what I mean? And I could do that all in the exact same time that I can probably watch one of these big epic things. Then there are other shows like Doctor Who's been on the airs, but I've been watching it for so long that it doesn't feel like the same sort of commitment, because it's like we're on the journey. But it's weird. And it is weird the way that you become discerning.
It's insane because it's subconscious. You don't have these rules. All of a sudden you're like, wait, I've got parameters for myself.
Right.
And I've got I love Breaking Bad. It's my favorite show of all time. Yeah. But I've still never seen Better Call Saul.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying, but in my head, I'm like, okay, if I ever end up in the hospital, or if I ever, like, when I want kids, and I know I can't watch that with my kids as they're growing up, but when they're babies, I'll have to be a stay-at-home dad. So I've got these weird things where I've earmarked shows to be like, okay, broken leg, have a child. Like, I've got these things where I can't rationalize it now while I'm able, but when I'm not able, I'm gonna watch the shit out of Better Call Saul. But it's so weird to have that in the back of your mind, like, okay, that's on the list.
I do that with video games and illness. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about it on the Patreon only pod. I started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey a couple of weeks ago. I'm a few episodes. Whenever a new Assassin's Creed game comes out, I go, shit.
Yeah, you said you're always 2 behind.
Yeah, I say like, shit, I want to play that, but I'm a little bit behind. So I play whatever the one I'm up to is, right?
That's what I saved Miles for the PS5 because I knew I couldn't afford a PS5, so I'm playing Miles for the first time.
Right. So, but that's what I do. And a couple weeks ago, I woke up. I had I was really bad congested. I couldn't remember myself to do much anything, and I was like, I just want to lay in bed today. I don't feel good, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll just play a game. And now but the problem is now I'm over the illness. But
you want to play the game.
I got to finish this fucking game because it's all I can think about all day, every day. But I get that though. I get the I'm gonna save this for a special.
Yeah, it's just and that happens I think as you get older too.
Right.
Like I'm going out of town for just a couple days to a little staycation because I'm not doing Christmas till January. So I wanted to get out of LA. Like I'm like I can't be here. Right. But the amount of excitement I have to go to like Lake Arrowhead and do a puzzle, like the astronomical and like. Part of me is like, well, you got so much stuff to watch, but I'm like, I can't have any downtime I have be this list.
Right, of course.
Because
100%.
It's like, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So it's funny how your brain like compartmentalizes like, okay, vacations are movies now.
Right.
They can't be because work is movies.
Yeah, for me, it's, we talk a lot about it's the input versus output. Where for me, it's like, all right, if we're going to a cabin, Alexandra and I, we're going to get away. I'm allowed to read a book that I've been wanting to read. But we're not allowed to watch a movie or TV because that's what I do all the time. So I'm allowed to read a book, and if I don't feel like reading the book, I have to write. So
Ooh, I like that.
I have to have output. And then the other side of it is the Neil Gaiman method, where if I'm like specifically wanting to disconnect from all of the input, the two things I'm allowed to do, which is I got this from Neil Gaiman, are write or do nothing. You're allowed to do nothing. You're allowed to sit there and look at the fucking lake. You're allowed to gaze up and fucking watch the birds. You're allowed to do nothing. That way you're giving yourself an out if you can't or don't want to write.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to do nothing, you only have one other option.
I like that.
And I got that.
I like that because I'm all input.
So I've done that too. Like when we went, actually our big engagement trip, last year, it was like a couple days rather, we were away, and there was like one day where it was like, what do you want to do today? And we were like, we can do this, and we went for a hike, but then it was a little bit colder than we anticipated, and we were like, oh, it wasn't that enjoyable. And so like, well, let's go home and let's blah blah blah, like lounge around, watch something, play something. And it was that rule where I was like, well, I have to just write, or I can watch the dog stare at the window. And I did that for a little bit, and then
sure.
And then I was like, well, I guess I have to write now.
I like that. I'm going to use that. I forgot. I've heard that long ago from Neil Gaiman, but I haven't. Yeah, that's good for this bracket of life. Well, I'm sure we got some hotline calls.
We do have some hotline calls. We're a little bit over schedule here, so we'll try to squeeze as many of these in as we can.
All right.
Hello, Coy, producer Jake. While we are years removed from Thanos and his quote-unquote glorious plan of the snap, I'm curious about a question that I have, and I'm posing to you gentlemen today, because I have several, but this one is to the forefront for the time being. With the introduction of the jump points in the Marvels and the way that the Guardians traveled in Guardians 2 throughout space and time, as well as the snaps themselves, when do you think we will get the proper introduction of one Richard Rider Nova? I am still under the impression that one of the people Miss Marvel reached out to, as in Carol Danvers, was, in fact, Nova Richard Rider. And the reason I bring up the jump points is because during my viewing of the Marvels, the first thing that came to mind when I saw the fracture of space-time was Annihilus. So I pose to you, when do you think we will get one Richard Rider Nova, despite what took place in the Infinity War with Thanos essentially blowing up Xandar? Have a nice day. Stay sweaty. Happy Thanksgiving.
So there you go. I believe that was Jared from Louisiana. I didn't say his name, but I recognize that smooth, silky voice.
It's true. It's true. I think it was as well. This is a good question because I do think that we are getting Nova, and I do think that we're getting some cosmic stuff with Fantastic Four. I think Annihilus might end up being like the next Fantastic Four villain because I think we're getting a Fantastic Four, from what I hear, that's in another universe, like another universe in the multiverse is going to bring them into ours where they've already been established. And I think that is a cool way to do Doom. I think that's a good way to potentially do Silver Surfer and Galactus and get a lot of the greatest hits in. But I think Annihilus is a great second villain. I think that'd be a good like long game. So I could see seeds planted as soon as Fantastic Four. But I think Nova needs to be here before Secret Wars. So is it too much to ask to introduce Doom, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Galactus, and Nova? Maybe. But I think that somewhere in the next wave, I personally would have had a post-credit scene that involved Nova or something cosmic, especially how cosmic the movie was. These aren't spoilers for Jake because he hasn't seen it
I have yet
but
to
I'm
see
sure
Marvels yet, yes.
The only thing you now know is that Nova isn't in it. I apologize.
Yes, that's fine. Listen, all I could say is if I was Marvel, I'd also steer clear of the character named Dick Ryder, just for the sake of...
perhaps Dick Ryder isn't the type.
This is a family product here, ladies and gentlemen. All right?
Also, according to the internet, they've been Dick Riders enough for a long time. Yeah. They don't need to make it a brand.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really curious. I think they need Nova.
I like Annihilus. That's a really interesting, like, that's one of those where I go like, God, what does that look like in a movie?
Yeah, right?
And the reality is 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, it's not going to work. But
now I want an insectoid space cosmic eater.
But listen, even though I know it wasn't a lot of people's cup of tea, I told the story on the air. I literally wept when I saw Eternity in Love and Thunder. Like that literally made me weep in the theater because it was just that like culmination of a childhood memory and a child, like it was just about that thing where it's like, fuck, like I can't believe we've gotten to a point where like batshit crazy Kirby-esque absurdity.
Dude, Eternals is my shit for that reason, man. A lot of people hate Eternals, but I'm like, the Celestials, you guys.
It's fucking, it's on screen. So Annihilus could work. And I know people are going to be like, you fucking poser. I can't remember. Is it the power rod of power cosmic rod? What's the fucking... the weapon?
Oh, that they like Firestorm has sometimes. Yeah, it's a cosmic rod.
Is it the cosmic rod? I mean, like, listen, we love a magical item that people are after. And,
we do. We certainly do.
Yeah, Annihilus would be fun to see.
I also think we're going to get Nova sooner than later in the MCU, not as Richard Rider, though, but I think we're going to get Sam Alexander, the young. Yeah, and I think that'll be like the Young Avengers.
Right.
I think there's no one like super cosmic. Miss Marvel is like street cosmic,
right?
But like we don't have anyone like young cosmic, so maybe that's like how they bring in a Young Avenger. I just hope the budget can sustain it. Right. But yeah, I think we're getting Nova soon. I just hope they don't try to cram Fantastic Four into too much.
Right.
But yeah, great question. Love that, Jared.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
Hey guys, Surrell from Alabama. Listening to the pod right now, currently was wanting to yell at something that was said. Jake, you went on a little thing just saying how that the MCU should possibly like disconnect, quit trying to make things connect to each other. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. We just had multiple years of Phase 4 and people whining about things not connecting, but everyone like who was seeing the forest through the trees like was noticing, oh no, they're building to this, they're building to this. But we just had multiple years of people screaming that wasn't the case. The disconnect isn't the thing. Like I don't know. It's just aggravating that not all Marvel is going to be for everybody. I love the Marvels personally, just because like it was just a big blast of fun. Like I understand, Coy, I think you called it like it's like a fluff movie, which that's fine. It doesn't have to be Winter Soldier. It is its own thing, and I don't understand not just falling in love with it because like Miss Marvel was a blast. Like, okay, sorry, I'm rambling. My absolute favorite thing that I wanted from the Marvels the most was to actually see Captain Marvel's personality after it had just flew over so many people's heads, how she just went into her warrior stoicism in the first first movie because that's what she was trained to do. So many people missed that. I don't know why they did. And I always loved the breakout scene of her on the Skrull ship actually showing her personality. Sorry, I'm talking way too long. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you so much.
I love the format of that call.
I want to do this piece by piece. He started by saying, "Oh, Jake, you're complaining that you think they should disconnect stuff, but people have been complaining that things aren't connected enough." I want to say I agree. I don't think I'm those people, though. I've been saying since Endgame that everything should be disconnected. If there are people complaining that, oh, things aren't connected enough or there's no connectivity, that's not me, because I've never been that. In fact, Coy and I, we talked all about this, speaking of your love for Eternals, and our least favorite thing about Eternals is that stupid line where they cram Thor in conversation for no fucking reason whatsoever. Like, I don't need the interconnectivity. In fact, my favorite things of post Endgame of phase 4, 7, 12, or wherever the fuck we are, have been the things that don't feel connected, like Shang-Chi, Moon Knight. While I loved Loki as this beautiful ending, and I loved Guardians as well, interconnectivity is not as important to me.
Well, Loki and Guardians also feel like they end stuff from phase 3. Like, I know Loki is phase 4, I understand that, but like it does feel like the ending to the old days.
Right, yeah. And I don't know, it sounds like you are in the camp where you want stuff to be connected, and you feel like the people complaining that it is, I don't know, I lost the thread there a little bit, but much love to you, a lot of respect, and always call me out whenever you think I'm being an idiot. But I will say, I don't think I've wavered on that point.
I think Logan is good because it doesn't try to be Wolverine 2 or 3. I think that, Deadpool 1 is good because it doesn't try to be X-Men 7.
Right,
personally, my issues with the Marvels are all about the individual movie, not about its connectivity. Like, I know a lot of people are excited about, like, oh, it set up this or it did this. The movie itself had no weight to any of its characters for me, and it didn't allow relationships to grow even within its runtime. Like, it had setups that don't pay off even like within itself. I'm talking about the seeds it plants that don't grow.
Right. Beyond what came before it, you mean?
And the things that came before it don't get used well. Like, the movie's a mess.
What was the word that he said you called? I missed.
Fluff.
Oh, fluff.
And he said fluff is fine. And I think fluff is fine if you're making a movie not in the MCU that doesn't connect to anything. And like this one did. And I think fluff is fine if I'm like, fluff is a tricky term because like I enjoy, SWAT or ambulance, like, Michael Bay stuff, but I'm not watching them with the expectation of, I think ambulance has 10 times more emotional resonance than the Marvels. Right. Because I'm watching that movie for the 2-hour runtime that it is. Right. The Marvels needed to be important for the 2 hours as well as the 40 hours. And that's not in the film. And I also think that the movie itself doesn't know what its characters are. And in many ways, it feels like it wrote one female character and split the personality amongst 3 leads. And that's not acceptable. Like, it's not a movie. It's a series of scenes.
Interesting. Yeah, I do look forward to seeing it, but I understand what you're saying, and again, you and I have kind of been similar about.
For the most part, we agree more than not on the MCU.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, and I said this before, we're getting to the point where it really does feel like comic books now. We've always wanted the movies to reflect the comic books, and now some of the comics just aren't that good, and some of them are, and a lot of times they're the same characters. But
I just don't think a movie that's going to be under unfair criticism from its very inception should be edited and written by committee. Like, if anything, this movie needed to be as important as Avengers because it is a team up between female heroes that is going to be scrutinized by male assholes. Like, there are people that are going to hate it by default, so you need to be better than fluff.
Right. Also, I do want to just state something that we have stated before. Back to your point about the fluff is, like, at some point, we started conflating fun movies with the word dumb movies.
Right. And I hate that.
And there are lots of fun movies that aren't insulting. And again, I'm not talking about Marvels because I haven't seen it. But like, there, I've talked about this before where you're like a fucking Morbius, which I think is fucking terrible. Like,
I get it.
There are movies that are fun that don't insult you, that might not be the deepest, and that might not be, have the most gravitas, but it doesn't mean that they don't work on an emotional level either, or that they're insulting. Like they're,
I agree. Whereas I found this like problematic and it's insulting assumption that I was like linear.
Also, caller, I do want to say too, I agree with you about people being very stupid about being upset at the lack of quote personality, because my favorite part of Miss Marvel, the thing that stuck with me the most of that whole story was the governor. Was like, it's not that the thing on her was just controlling her power. It was subduing who she was, a woman, and subduing what makes her who she is, meaning her personality, her fire, the way that she feels, the way that she thinks. In fact, my big problem with Ms. Marvel was that it was a mixed metaphor, was that they didn't lean into just that. They had this whole other story about not quitting and standing back up when you get knocked down, which were two
they played that montage 82 times.
And they were two completely different stories where I was like, oh, stick to that theme, because the theme that you are discussing is the thing that makes me like that character the most.
And dear listeners, he means Captain Marvel. Miss Marvel's the show, but
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. Yes, Captain Marvel. Sorry, I sometimes my brain moves faster or my mouth moves slower. I don't know. However you want.
He just demoted Carol Danvers.
Yes,
but yeah. So that is the. But yeah, thank you for the call. And honestly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I'm so glad you enjoyed the movie. I wish I had, because you had 2 better hours of your life than I did. I always want to enjoy things. I'm always happy when people do, especially when I don't, because hey, that day for you was better than me.
All right, we got another call. Let's see what we got here.
Greetings, Coy. Greetings, producer Jake. This is Matt Glama of the Legendary Fighting Federation, and I hope you both had a happy Thanksgiving. While I was home, or visiting Mom's place over Thanksgiving, I see the old stack of comic books that I had, and there on the front was Super Pro number 1. Super Pro was the NFL-themed superhero. I don't remember much about it, but I remember thinking, this is issue 1 of a comic book combining the NFL and comics. It's definitely going to be really valuable one day. Don't think it's lived up to that. Haven't actually checked. But it got me thinking about like comic book tie-ins with other things, other non-comic book related things. I was curious if you had any good memories or bad memories of any particularly interesting comic book tie-ins. Well, anyway, have a good day, y'all. Take care. Bye.
This is a fun question, Mass Llama.
Comic
Love
book tie-ins. What do you got?
I immediately think of the Star Trek issues of the X-Men. Like, that's one of my favorites ever, because it's taken so seriously. They like made the X-Men part of like Starfleet, which I really like loved as a kid. I don't know if that issue has hit the value goals you had set in your youth, but I hope so. Just like Combo Man. I don't know if you remember Combo Man. Remember the food combos?
First
snack?
off, you don't have to ask me if I remember my favorite road trip snack. I will.
You don't remember Combo Man? You looked at me so quizzically.
I will fuck up a bag of pizzeria pretzel combos faster than you could say, do you remember Combo Man? Combo
Man is like my favorite back. Okay, good. This is gonna unlock so many childhood memories.
Right.
This was the back of like peak comic buying when I first started in comics. This was the back of every fucking issue for like 5 years.
I'm looking it up. Okay.
Core memory about to be unlocked.
Combo Man is literally all of this. I fucking 100% remember this image.
Right? That was the back of every issue of Marvel in the mid-90s. Dude.
Also, by the way, we've gone from Dick Ryder to Dick Wilder. This character's name is Richard Wilder. Rick Wilder.
I'm proud of him.
He is from Earth 616, and he is Combo Man, and he is made up of. Let's see if I can do all of them. He is made up. There's the picture. So from the tip of his head to the bottom of his toes in this order: the Hulk, Cyclops, Iron Man, Magneto. Are you looking at the picture, Coy? Are you following along? Okay. Because I wanted to make sure I get any of these wrong. So Magneto, Punisher, Captain America, Wolverine, I'm guessing Daredevil?
Yep, it's the black suit.
Right. Spider-Man. Is that Venom, maybe? The thighs?
It could almost be anyone with that could be like Trunks, that could be.
I think that's Venom. I think he has those two little random squares on his thighs.
Oh, you know what I think it is? I think it's Spider-Man because the arms, because the hands. I think it's literally lining up with where his hands would go.
Oh.
So there's might be Spider-Man's legs, like you see,
I get it.
right
Okay.
below the pointed.
I get it. And then Human Torch, and then I'm guessing Colossus, but they're just metal legs. And then the boots, it's covering. Wait, I'm going the way. Shit, the boots are Dr. Doom, maybe.
I think they're Thor.
Oh, they might be Thor
Remember
boots.
his 90s like booties?
All right, now I gotta look up Combo Man parts.
You guys never expected Combo Man to come out of this.
I mean, Combo Man parts.
Oh, it's Gambit feet.
Oh, they're Gambit's feet. Right. Good eye. Combo Man was every Marvel superhero confirmed because of snack food.
Also, weirdly, in some continuity, Combo Man has Carnage in him and Sabretooth.
Right.
Like right under the Sabretooth.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah,
two
yeah.
different...
There's a bunch of different versions of him depending on who drew him.
Guys, this is high art. I'm just letting you know. This is what comics are for.
I mean, it's kind of great.
This was the back of so many comics. I loved Combo Man.
Oh, in fact, no, that I was wrong. It's not Wolverine, it's Sabretooth. And it's not Daredevil.
Right.
It's not Daredevil. It's Carnage and then Daredevil. I was conflating the two.
Yep, I see exactly where that happened.
And I see the diff. I see where the break is. And then, yes, you were right. The thighs are Spider-Man. But then, no, the thighs aren't Spider-Man. He only has Spider-Man's hands. He doesn't have any Spider-Man in his lower extremities. Spider-Man ends his hands. It's called Sentry. Sentry is a character that I don't recall.
Oh, Sentry's like they're bringing him into some stuff. He is the guy that's like bipolar, like the Void is evil and the good side is like Superman.
No. You're thinking of Sentry.
Oh, are you saying
this
the
is
Sentry?
Sentry, like 100 years.
Oh, weird. I don't know him.
Sentry, and it says dimensional travel, and then Human Torch, and then not Colossus, but Silver Surfer, and then you are correct, Gambit. And I found this literally in a breakdown from the old comic of all of the people that it's supposed to be.
Guys, this question elicited so much nostalgia.
I did never answer it, and I have a really easy one. President Obama.
Oh man, that Spider-Man cover.
President Obama on a Spider-Man cover. I mean, like, I don't know.
Life moment.
It's silly, but I remember being like, I like that. As a little kid, I think I can't recall a ton of quote tie-ins to Mass Llama's point. I do remember things like this. I've talked about like that Spawn panel with all of the Marvel and DC hands in the prison.
Yep.
Like stuff like that. And then,
I mean, Eminem teaming up with Punisher and like the new Eminem Spider-Man cover. Like I think of the real world crossovers.
I think more recent years, it's mostly just cameos that I love. Like they're not necessarily tie-ins, but like seeing the How Did This Get Made group in Mr. Miracle, seeing Jay and Silent Bob and Invincible.
Dude, having SNL like superheroes on SNL with like the original cast of SNL is still like crazy to me.
So those are fun. But
great question. Also, Combo Man, look him up.
Combo Man. Well, he'll be the art for the episode.
Yeah, who would your Combo Man team be, audience?
Oh my God, who would you make a Combo Man out of?
Build your Combo Man leading up to next week's Chump the MCU.
If I had time and money, I would create a build a Combo Man thing where you could just go in and you just click through all the different characters. Fun. And that way it just changes like their hair.
Take a section.
Changes their forehead, changes their eyes, changes their jaw. Yeah.
We'd have to have so many characters standing the exact same.
Oh, 100%. You'd have to draw everything. You have to have an artist redraw all the characters.
But yeah, I mean, leading up to next week's the Stump the MCU Chump, also let us know your dream Combo Man of like 10 characters.
Well, that'll do it for the hotline calls this week. Skoy, once again, tell them how they can call the hotline.
That's going to be 818-794-0622. That's 818-794-0622. And you can call that in to also leave some Stump Me, the MCU Chump for next week, but also contact at, oh, no, you don't want a voice?
No. Shut your dumb.
I take it back.
Your mouth. You don't.
I'm wrong.
You're bad.
I'm just wrong.
This is proof he clearly, one, doesn't remember Stump Spider-Man, and two, did not read any of the announcements or listen to the announcement that I put in the feed, which is good because I probably bashed him for 10 minutes.
Probably.
For having his finger off of the pulse of production of the show, ironically.
That's fair. And hey, proof.
All right, so let's talk all about next week's recording. It'll be the next episode of the show. It's not coming out for 2 weeks, but on Monday, December 4th. On Monday, December 4th, we were going to be recording our final episode of the year. This is just a few days away now. You've only got this upcoming weekend. And we wanted to give all of our listeners a chance to win an item of their choosing from the shop. And by doing so, all you have to do is stump the MCU chump. That is correct. All you have to do is ask Coy MCU trivia questions. I will read them on the show, and if you stump him, you get entered into the drawing, of which the winner will be announced on the podcast on December 27th. So the December 27th airing will be where we announce the winner, and each person can ask up to 3 different questions in an attempt to stump Coy. And your trivia questions can be anything related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To enter, email Coy Jandro. Email up to 3 questions, preferably multiple choice. If you don't make the multiple choice, I will make them multiple choice for you. To contact@coycast.com. That's contact@coycast.com, and put "Stump the MCU Chump" in the subject line. Please include your name in the email and, of course, the answers to the questions. I can't tell you how many people 2 years ago when we did this for Stump Spiders Man just asked a question and did not include the answer. And those people's questions were not asked to Coy on air because I did not Google the answers. So yes, and of course you can attest to this, Coy. Like when we did it 2 years ago, you had no knowledge of any of the questions prior.
Oh, no, I literally, and like to the point of me not knowing even the setup, apparently.
There we go.
This year will last. And I can't believe that was a year ago because it feels like both 6 months and 5 years ago.
2 years.
That's helpful. That's why. Okay, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And so, yes, I will ensure that Coy cannot cheat. He won't see any of the questions beforehand. He has absolutely no way of prepping. And so please send an email right now. Get your trivia questions in by December 4th. And when I say by December 4th, let's be perfectly honest, I mean by December 3rd, because if I wake up that morning, I'm not going to have time to read through 100 emails. So get them in with enough time for us to prep and for me to prep the episode, which is just this weekend. You've got this weekend. If you're listening to this when it comes out, you've only got a few days. So please stump the MCU chump, ask 3 MCU-related questions, contact@coycast.com, and you can win an item of your choosing from the shop. That includes the brand new Coycast hoodies.
But also don't make it like what's in the frame at hour and 17 minutes. Like they got to be reasonable.
They will. Yeah, I think we had the same disclaimer last time.
I'm just letting you know. I'm not going to know like the mother's maiden name that appears in one.
I think if I remember last time, what we did was we eliminated some questions that were a little bit absurd from.
Okay. And last year went great.
And that's why also I asked for 3 questions. Because generally there are some that are like, all right, this person's just trying to be an asshole.
Yeah, if you have to Google the question and you have to let's be real here. I'm just going to be playing in real time.
Also, you know what? Not just a thank you, but a shout out to Darth Vadad, who is having his second surgery. The battery being put in for his Parkinson's. I think that happened yesterday at time of release of today. So 1, hope you're feeling great and doing well, Darth Vadad. We love you very much. But 2, thank you to him because he, right before I came across country here, he sent us a little MCU trivia game that I think he thought we would be able to play in person, and I thought as well. But unfortunately, now that we're separated, it's a little bit tough to play. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have that game on hand, and so I will be, adding. It'll be a fluff question. I'll be adding some extra. That way we just kind of keep to see where the level is of knowledge, because some of those
I like that. That's
some of those are really easy. Some of them not so much, and so we'll have some supplemental questions just for fun. So pretty much there's just going to be an entire next episode of us just grilling. Coy's going to feel like he's at school.
The dream. Right? I just get to suffer.
And I do want to say, like, the stuff he's seen most recently, like, I mean, come on. Let's ask him some stuff that was a really long time ago. It's going to be the harder things, everybody.
Great.
Right?
Let's go back to 08. I remember 08 so well.
take a look at his Marvel listings and go for the movies he didn't like as much. He probably hasn't seen them as many times.
Don't help them more. They're okay here. They're fine without help. It's going to be all Marvel's questions.
It's gonna
all right.
all Marvel's questions. Or, yeah. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Yes. It's gonna
or
be all
like
Marvel.
Incredible Hulk, which I like more than most, but was in 08. All right, that is going to do it.
I am going to say, wait, we should do this. All right. We get it. Ever since No Way Home and all that nonsense, every Marvel property that's ever existed.
Oh, yeah. Fox is not yet there until Secret Wars, all right?
Quote, in the MCU, but we're talking about Iron Man on. Let's be.
Yeah, no Sam Raimi and no Fox. I know you want to be sassy.
Just because it's like, well, technically they're in the MCU now. Don't be smarmy about it. You know what we're
Yeah, but they're in a multiverse, which is canon because that Xavier wasn't ours. You'll see.
In the spirit of the game. That's what we want to say, okay?
I like that. Okay.
Contact.
And also 818-794-0722. 818-794-0722 is how to call for other not stumping me questions for next week. So please do call us in there. That is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll be crowning a new unpunchable gift horse next episode. And if you're a patron, tune in to, well, yesterday's probably, but the next couple patron pods, lots of good stuff over there. So please do become a patron.
Hey, I watched Blue Beetle.
Oh.
You want to hear all my Blue Beetle thoughts? Wait, we'll do this like clickbait. Jake watched Blue Beetle, and his opinions might surprise you. Find out
it is.
Only on the Patron Only Pod.
What he thought will shock you. Tune into the Patron Only Pod to find out what those shocking revelations are. All right, we'll be back in a couple weeks, and tune into the Patron Pod every week. So much love to you, lovelies. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you, as always, to Comic Books for Existing. Have a great week.
Hey, thanks for listening to Dragon Wagon Radio. If you're enjoying this show, check out DragonWagonShop.com and get yourself some sweet merch while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. That's DragonWagonShop.com.
It's Dragon Wagon.